To really get this, let's ground some complex supply chain theory into a visceral, everyday reality we all know. Step right onto the floor of a busy fast food joint during the peak lunch rush. You walk in, you order a classic chicken sandwich, and within seconds, boom, it's handed right to you. No delay, no confusion. It feels completely effortless, right? But what makes that effortless flow actually possible? It's not just incredibly fast cooks. Behind that simplicity is an extraordinary predictive system. Your demand was anticipated, calculated, and literally prepped for before you even pulled your car into the parking lot.
It's like a perfect illustration of this delicate balance between a beautifully blue, predictable system logic and the sheer chaos of human variability. On one side, we have the normal flow, the classic sandwich. The system expects it, the supply chain is totally primed for it, and it flows beautifully. But then we introduce customization. You know the order. No onion, extra ketchup, maybe some gluten-free bread. Suddenly, the system fractures. It's not because the kitchen staff suddenly forgot how to cook. It's because your demand just deviated from the prediction. It became less predictable, introducing this harsh orange friction and unpredictability right into the flow. And hey, this isn't just about lunch. This is the exact same challenge every single global supply chain faces when reality flat out refuses to match the forecast.
Moving on to Section 2, Demystifying WMAP.
To understand how executives manage all that friction at a massive global scale, we need to pivot from the restaurant floor straight to the executive dashboard. And the undisputed king of metrics here is WMAP. Now, that stands for Weighted Mean Absolute Percentage Error. I know, it sounds super technical. Actually, scratch the jargon for a second, just listen to the core question it's really asking. How wrong were we? And how much did it actually matter? That is profound. In a supply chain, you have to realize that not all errors are created equal. If you miss the demand forecast for some obscure, low-volume item, it might barely make a ripple on the balance sheet. But if you miss the demand for a high-revenue flagship product, there's no way around it that can destabilize your entire business. WMAP doesn't just measure a math error, it measures the very real business-weighted impact of that error.
Which brings us to Section 3, the fast food reality check. Let's see how this actually builds out in the real world. Say our restaurant forecasted they'd need 100 chicken sandwiches and 10 fish sandwiches today. But they know a crucial piece of business intel. Chicken drives a whopping 80% of their revenue, while fish, it only drives 20%. Those are our revenue weights. Then reality hits. They actually ended up needing 140 chicken sandwiches and only 5 fish. Now, if you look purely at the error column, the fish sandwich forecast was off by a massive 50%, while the chicken was off by 40%. A traditional old-school forecaster might totally panic over the fish. But an executive looks at the weights. That 40% error on the chicken is absolutely catastrophic because it directly impacts 80% of the entire company's revenue flow.
So, when we blend those errors with their respective business weights, multiplying that 40% chicken error by its 80% weight and the 50% fish error by its 20% weight, it spits out our final WMAPE calculation, 42%. That single number represents the blended, business-weighted error impact across the whole shebang. It is the true, unfiltered pulse of the business's predictive health.
The absolute crucial takeaway here is that a 42% WMAP isn't just saying, oops, our math was off. It is sounding a blaring alarm that says we were significantly wrong exactly where it mattered most. WMAP is fundamentally about profit conversion efficiency. If your WMAP is high on your core revenue drivers, you are just bleeding profit, completely regardless of how accurate your overall unit count might look on a spreadsheet.
Let's move to Section 4, from blame to learning.
Really internalizing this metric requires a massive shift in corporate culture. Traditionally, an organization sees a 42% error rate and immediately goes on a witch hunt looking for someone to blame. But the most successful supply chains, they treat WMAP as an investigative signal. They ask, why did the demand deviate? Was there a sudden shift in the weather? Did a viral TikTok post cause a massive spike? Maybe a competitor had a stock out and their angry customers suddenly flocked to us. Were there pricing changes or maybe some poorly communicated promotions? The further out your time horizon is, say you're forecasting 90 days out, the higher the uncertainty and the more these little variables introduce risk. A sudden spike in WMAP is a flashing red light begging you to investigate these root causes right now.
Because let me tell you, the real-world impacts of ignoring these signals are severe. You're living in one of two worlds. You either experience the beautiful green optimization of a strong WMAP, we're talking brilliant inventory health, highly efficient cash flow, and totally smooth production planning, or
You face the brutal red financial bleed of deteriorating forecasts, devastating stockouts, the absolute panic of paying premium freight costs just to rush materials across the globe, mountains of excess inventory turning into waste. A deteriorating WMAPE directly damages your procurement flows, and it forces your purchasing teams into a reactive, exhausting firefighting mode instead of smart, strategic sourcing. Which brings us to our final section, Part 5, Strategic Supply Chain Architecture.
Let's zoom out to the macro view for a second. WMAP is literally the absolute foundation of your strategic supply chain architecture. It dictates your entire operating model. If your company masters a low WMAP, you earn the right to operate lean systems. You get to build highly optimized supplier networks, streamline your transportation, and rely on lightning-fast replenishment. It's incredibly efficient and highly profitable. But if you suffer from a chronically high WMAP, reality forces you into buffer-heavy systems. You have no choice but to build ridiculously expensive contingency plans. You have to bloat your warehouses with heavy safety stocks just to protect yourself from your own unpredictable demand. In short, your forecasting accuracy fundamentally defines exactly how expensive it is to run your business.
So how do the absolute best organizations achieve that lean, optimized state? Well, they don't chase the impossible dream of zero error. That's a fool's errand. Instead, they build a continuous learning loop. They start off by deploying statistical and AI-driven prediction systems to handle all the heavy mathematical lifting. Then they seamlessly feed in real-time market intelligence. But they definitely don't stop there. They apply absolutely crucial human business interpretation, because forecasting isn't just raw math, right? It's business strategy translated into numbers. And finally, they lock all of this into a continuous improvement loop, constantly analyzing their forecast bias so they can evolve, adapt, and drive ultimate efficiency. Behind every seamless operation, behind every glowing, optimized global network, is the strict discipline to track, understand, and continuously improve that executive heartbeat of demand. As we look at the SupplySec architecture representing the absolute pinnacle of this optimization, I really want to leave you with one final provocative thought to take back to your own operations. We know the invisible prediction engine runs the world. So, how well does your company transform prediction into profit?